Hey, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 28th. You're listening to the Mo News Podcast. I'm Moshe Nunu here.
And I am Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts.
And we read all the news and read between the lines so you don't have to.
And Moshe, we're just a few days away from Halloween, which it turns out, according to a new survey, is one of the loneliest days of the year for singles. According to this survey from dating.com, 59% of the people say that Halloween is one of the hardest days of the year. Many say it's actually worse than Valentine's Day, and about 80% admit that they feel lonely on October 31st.
Jill, very interesting numbers. I would have assumed that Valentine's Day was the worst day or loneliest day for singles out there, but we're thinking about you, all of you who are single, this weekend. I guess between, the families trick-or-treating and the couples costumes, and of course, social media can be challenging. So I guess social media always exacerbates loneliness and other things like that.
Right, because it's just more in your face.
I'm going to be calling my single friends and checking in on them and having them join in on the trick-or-treating this year.
They're going to be like, we're at a crazy Halloween party. What do you mean?
Yeah, like, why do I want to trick-or-treat with your 2-year-old? I'm like, I'm just checking in on you. I looked at the survey data. Just being a good friend.
Dating.com says that more than half of you have cried after the door rings giving out candy. That's actually real.
With all due respect to Dating.com, I've never heard of Dating.com. I don't know how they conduct their surveys, so color me a bit skeptical. But nonetheless, we're here for you, Jill and I. You can trick-or-treat on Long Island with her, or you can trick-or-treat in New York City with me.
Okay, let's get to some headlines. Almost a month into this government shutdown, it is now causing some major pain at the nation's airports, what you need to know and why it could get worse. The biggest story on our Instagram today: can President Trump legally serve a third term? His one-time advisor, Steve Bannon, says yes. And he says there's a plan in place for Trump 2028.
Yeah, we give you a reality check on this unconstitutional plot.
Meanwhile, Hurricane Melissa is now the strongest storm on the planet this year as Jamaica braces for a direct hit.
Jill, the storm is massive and so strong it actually led a hurricane hunting plane, those planes that go into the storms to assess wind speed and strength, to turn around yesterday.
In business news, Amazon set to announce the largest layoffs in company history. And your Thanksgiving turkey is going to cost a lot more this year. We'll tell you why. In Ohio, the state close to passing what is called a success sequence bill, which would require that schools teach students when to have kids, what exactly this all means, and how K-pop demon hunters became the hottest Halloween costume of the year.
And why stores are not ready.
Moshe is on this day in history.
On this day in history, you get a 305-foot gift from the French. Do you know what it was?
Was it originally brown?
You are onto it, Jill Wagner.
Okay, let's start with the government shutdown, now in day 28. Moshe, things are about to get very real. There is no resolution in sight. The House has not voted since September 19th. That is more than a month ago. Republican Speaker Mike Johnson plans on keeping them shut down for the foreseeable future. The Senate has now voted on and failed to pass a funding bill more than 10 times. As we have discussed, Republicans already passed a stopgap budget, which would keep the government funded for a few weeks. Most Democrats will not vote for it unless it includes an extension of some of the Obamacare subsidies, without which healthcare costs will climb for millions of Americans. So here we are. President Trump is in Asia all week. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers have been going without pay. And starting today, air traffic controllers will miss their first full paycheck. They still have to work, even if they don't get paid. But the air travel system is at a growing risk. LAX had a full flight stoppage this weekend because of a staffing shortage. And here is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy talking to Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo.
The controllers are wearing thin. And again, they're taking second jobs. They're out there looking, can I drive Uber? Can I find another source of income? So what I see coming forward as we get to Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, that you're going to see more staffing shortages in towers, which means you're going to see more delays, more cancellations.
Remember, many of them already work 6-day weeks, 10 hours a day. And then on top of that, they're trying to find time to actually do jobs that will actually bring in some money right now while they go unpaid.
So you've got about 13,000 controllers and 50,000 TSA officers working without pay during the shutdown. The FAA is already 3,500 short of its target staffing level, which means a lot of the staff is already working mandatory overtime. According to FlightAware, more than 8,000 flights in the U.S. were delayed on Sunday alone. Duffy said the absences spread across 22 different FAA facilities over the weekend, and he says that he cannot guarantee that flights will not be delayed or canceled in the future. So remember, Moshe, this is how the longest shutdown in history under President Trump in his first term ended on the 35th day of the longest ever federal shutdown. 10 air traffic controllers decided to stay home. That is a number according to CNN, but it sent ripple effects throughout the entire air travel system, temporarily shutting down travel at New York's LaGuardia Airport, with major delays at other hubs like in Philly and Atlanta, which eventually drove President Trump to agree to end the shutdown.
Yeah, so we're heading into crunch time here as we enter a fifth week of the shutdown. We'll see if ultimately the air traffic controllers, if they stop showing up to work, will sort of force the same solution as they did last time, a compromise between Republicans and Democrats. Now, there is a bill here that could eventually help in the interim. Senator Ted Cruz, the Republican from Texas, has a bill to just pay air traffic controllers. Another senator has one just to pay troops. Now, we're looking at votes on those bills this week, but no guarantees they will pass. Democrats, are trying to prevent carve-outs here, but at the same time, it'll be hard for Democrats to argue that they shouldn't pay air traffic controllers and keep the system going. They don't want to be blamed for, massive delays and cancellations across the country, or God forbid, some sort of incident or crash. Now, interestingly, Jill, as we talk about the 700,000 or so government employees not being paid, the essential workers still having to show up, not being paid, there are tens of thousands of government workers who are set to be paid right now. They include Customs and Border Patrol, ICE agents, deportation officers, Secret Service, as well as TSA air marshals. Those are the guys with the guns. Those are the guys and gals with guns in the air on flights. They apparently are covered under the One Big Beautiful Bill that passed over the summer, which gave ICE an extra $75 billion in funding. So according to DHS, they will get some sort of super check to cover this time period. But the folks who will not be getting checks come this Saturday are about 40 million Americans who receive SNAP benefits. Those are the benefits formerly known as food stamps. SNAP food aid has never lapsed before during previous government shutdowns. But the Trump administration concluded late last week that they cannot tap a contingency fund or other nutrition programs to cover the $9 billion in monthly benefits. So it does have a lot of folks asking questions. Well, the ICE agents are being paid, but the people getting food aid are not going to be able to receive that. You have the air marshals getting paid, but the air traffic controllers are not getting paid. So there are a lot of little funds and budget maneuvering that the various departments can do in certain ways, but they can't do it in other ways. And for the vast majority of government workers, whether they're non-essential and sitting at home right now or essential and coming to work, they still will not be paid. And then, Jill, you have the government contractors. We've heard from a number of you who are government contractors who aren't being paid. And then even when the government comes back, typically government contractors do not receive back pay. So we've heard from a number of you there who are very concerned about how long this may go on. So as we talked about on the podcast last week, this really is sort of crunch week here as people, an increasing number of people, millions more people, will start really feeling the effects of this government shutdown.
And sticking with politics, the story that got by far the most reaction on our Instagram account on Monday, President Trump leaving the door open to a third White House term, and it's leading to questions about whether he is trolling Democrats or if he's actually serious about circumventing the Constitution's two-term limit. At the same time, Trump is also dismissing the idea of running as vice president in 2028. That is one way that some allies, including his former advisor, Steve Bannon, believe that he can actually find a way back to the White House again. So first, let's listen to part of an interview that Bannon gave to The Economist recently, in which he said, Trump will be president in 2028. Take a listen.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28. And people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is. But there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28.
So the president was asked about that while he was on board Air Force One on Monday. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was standing right behind him. Rubio and J.D. Vance are seen as the natural heirs to Trump, and we assume that both intend to run in 2028. Anyway, here is Trump.
Well, I haven't really thought about it. We have some very good people, as you know. Well, we have great people. Well, I don't have to get into that, but we have one of them standing right here. We have J.D., obviously. The vice president is great. I think Marco's great. I think, I'm not sure if anybody would run against us.
So you're saying there's a chance, Moshe. What is happening here? Can Trump legally run for president again or serve as president for a third term? What is your take?
So there are two schools of thought here. One is, and by the way, the fact that we're talking about it, this is door number one, mission accomplished. We're talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about a third term. You know, a number of liberals and Democrats are freaking out about that. And that's always been part of Trump's shtick, right? Like, you know, throw something incendiary out there and then distract people with it for a while. We know that there is something called the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution that limits a president to being elected twice. Elected twice. Now, it appears they are focused on that word elected. It doesn't say serve, it says elected. And that's where you have some of the people around Trump, like Steve Bannon and others, who are like, okay, he can't be elected twice, but how do we get him to serve more than twice? So theory number one, someone runs as president. Let's say it's J.D. Vance. Trump runs as vice president. Then they get elected. Vance resigns and Trump becomes president. He wasn't elected president. So they think, you know, there's an option for him. Now, Trump was asked about this, as you noted, and he was like, no. And the term he used was cute. It's too cute. People would not accept it. It's not cool. And by the way, we should mention, technically, the 12th Amendment, which is the amendment that deals with vice presidents, say that no one who is ineligible to be president can run as vice president. Now, the 12th Amendment was passed before the 22nd Amendment. So again, being, quote unquote, to use Trump's word, cute, the Bannon folks are arguing, well, when they wrote the 12th Amendment, technically, he would have still been eligible to be vice president. They didn't anticipate the 22nd Amendment coming, 100 plus years later. And so with that in mind, he is eligible based on how they wrote the 12th Amendment without taking the 22nd Amendment into consideration. Now, most even conservative legal experts will tell you that's crazy. A Supreme Court would knock that down immediately. That was not the intention. It's not the spirit of the law altogether. But Trump says, no, I wouldn't do that. Then you have like the next theory, which is anyone can become Speaker of the House. So if Republicans have a majority of the House, they could elect any citizen, you, Jill Wagner, me, or Donald Trump to be Speaker of the House. Using the line of succession, whoever is president and vice president could resign, and then the Speaker of the House becomes president, getting around both the 22nd and 12th Amendment. We know Trump and the Trump administration is all about finding loopholes. It's all about, well, the Constitution was written that way, but what's a way around it, right? We saw that play out with Mike Pence on January 6th, which, upset Trump. He saw a loophole there. So it's all about finding loopholes, and Trump is all about, throwing stuff out there that's shocking initially, and then over time you increasingly, become comfortable with it, or it just doesn't it becomes less shocking because you hear about it all the time. Now, where do I fall in all of this? Door number one, shock. Talk about me. 2028 hats. Talk about me, because the moment that I sort of anoint the next person who's running or endorse the next person, you're going to stop talking about me. Door number two, he's serious about this. I guess I'm sort of door number three, which is like a sort of both. Like right now, he's all about, getting the attention for himself. He has told people privately he's done after this. He'll be 82 years old. But at the same time, he's all about like, come back to me with some options. Like maybe there is a loophole in there and let's see where the world is in 2 years. So, you can't rule it out completely. Now, constitutionally, you can, but will he attempt some sort of loophole? Can't put it completely beyond him. But at this juncture, I sort of lean, towards he just likes the attention and the several minutes of this podcast that we devoted to it, along with all the other podcasts out there and news stories and cable news and everything else. He's been watching it live on Air Force One. Which
means that whether or not he is serious about this, those Trump 2028 hats are not going away anytime soon.
No, selling like hotcakes.
All right, time for the speed read, starting with that massive Category 5 hurricane set to slam into Jamaica. From CNN, Melissa is bearing down on Jamaica in the coming hours and is expected to become the strongest hurricane ever to hit the island of about 3 million people since record keeping began in 1851. The rare Category 5 storm has winds of up to 175 miles per hour, with gusts that are even stronger than that, making it the strongest storm on the planet this year. Its outer bands have started to hit Jamaica on Monday evening. The storm has a well-defined eye flashing with lightning. Melissa is the third Cat 5 hurricane of the Atlantic season, which is the second most of any season on record. And it is expected, Amos, to be absolutely catastrophic for Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the hurricane hunting plane that, flies through the wall into the eye to measure the wind speed, barometric pressure, and other items. During one of the flights yesterday, had to turn around because of how strong the storm was. Jill, the cleaner the eye is, when you see a very clean circular eye and nothing in the middle, the cleaner it is, the more powerful that storm is. And they were actually able to catch birds that are caught up in the eye of the storm because of how strong the wind speeds are. They cannot fly out of the eye right now. And there have been a few of these storms in history where tropical birds have made their way to New England and the mid-Atlantic and various areas because these birds were trapped in the eye of the hurricane until it weakened and made landfall. So, there are a number of things they're looking at here. The projections are pretty significant here. The storm is expected to bring Jamaica up to 40 inches of rain, nearly 4 feet of rain. There's going to be 9 to 13 foot storm surge or even higher, given the strength of the storm hitting the southern coast there. So we're talking about Kingston and the rest of southern Jamaica. We're really talking about there's going to be a before Melissa and after Melissa for Jamaica. Storms of this size typically take years, if not more, in terms of rebuilding. We're talking about Michael hitting Florida, or Katrina in New Orleans, Louisiana, and the surrounding areas. And that's going to be the big concern here, both for Jamaica, but then beyond that, Cuba is going to get hit pretty significantly as well. Gitmo, about 1,000 non-essential U.S. military personnel were flown out of Gitmo over the weekend in anticipation of the storm. Turks and Caicos could get hit pretty significantly here. And then as it makes its way up the Atlantic, it is not going to hit the U.S. mainland, but Bermuda is in its sights as well. Now, Bermuda is super tiny, so Bermuda has to get super unlucky to get the worst of the storm, but they're certainly watching this very closely. But for now, it's moving very slowly, which could lead to massive amounts of rain dumping on Jamaica, which could lead to mudslides given the topography of the island. It is a storm we're going to watch closely and hope that Jamaica does not get the worst of what they're projecting right now.
To some business news from CNBC, Amazon is preparing to announce sweeping job cuts starting today. The layoffs will amount to the largest cuts to Amazon's corporate workforce in the company's history, spanning almost every business. Amazon's expected to begin informing employees of the layoffs via email this morning. Amazon would not comment to CNBC. Amazon planning to lay off as many as 30,000 staffers across its corporate workforce. Now, the company is the nation's second largest private employer behind Walmart, with more than 1.54 million staffers globally. As of the end of the second quarter in June, that figure primarily made up of its warehouse workforce. It has roughly 350,000 corporate employees. So laying off 30,000 will account for about 10% of their corporate workforce. The planned layoffs would also represent the biggest job cuts across the tech industry since at least 2020.
So this is part of the CEO, Andy Jassy's initiative that began just after the pandemic. He is looking to shrink the workforce. There's been a lot of talk inside Amazon. In fact, we told you about this on the podcast last week about them utilizing AI and what AI is going to mean to certain jobs at Amazon. Jill, we have a number of people who work at Amazon who listen to this podcast as well as follow us on Instagram. I got a note from one of them on Instagram who wrote, Amazonian here. Vibes are pretty bad around the office. Lots of disheartening talk about what to do next and how AI is taking people's jobs. I should mention this is a core topic that we addressed last night during a Mo News workshop. We do workshops every couple of weeks for Mo News Premium members, and then we make them available on the Mo News Premium podcast as well as the video over on the Mo News members dashboard and Mo News web app. So if you're interested in some context around AI and jobs, which sectors are going to be impacted, what your kids should be studying to sort of AI proof themselves, definitely join Premium over at mo.news/premium and check out our workshop from last night. And Jill, ultimately here, Amazon not alone. We've seen more than 200 tech companies as of this week lay off more than 100,000 employees since the start of the year. A lot of the major names that you know about, some again blaming the pandemic, saying we overhired during the pandemic, we're recalibrating right now, but also a significant number of them saying we need to recalibrate around AI.
From Axios, bird flu is making a major comeback across the country this fall, reviving concerns about U.S. readiness to respond to outbreaks, especially as the government is shut down. The most immediate concern is how the spread of the disease in commercial poultry flocks could drive up food prices. A month before Thanksgiving, wholesale turkey prices are about 40% higher than last year.
So there's turkeys and then there's egg prices, Jill. We'll be watching those closely. They're still down from the beginning of the year. That's been, a major topic that they've been focused on at the White House. But bird flu continued to come around and come around and come around again. Influenza was found in 62 commercial and backyard flocks across 17 states in just the past 30 days, impacting more than 6 million, nearly 7 million birds here. Now, infections have also been identified in dairy cows, in cats, and other mammals in another half a dozen states over the last couple of months. We have seen a handful of cases where the bird flu has made it to humans. Those, for the most part, have been cases where the people were very close to cows or very close to chickens. We have not seen, thankfully, human-to-human bird flu transmission. That's the big concern, is that we could get to some variant at some point where there's variants on bird flu leading to human transmission. That's what really concerns folks, especially in light of the fact that the CDC recently announced they were winding down their response. And you have heard from RFK Jr. and others that they don't want mRNA technology used for vaccine research. And mRNA, of course, was used for COVID vaccine and was seen as something that could really help when it comes to creating a bird flu vaccine and really producing it at a significant speed and ensuring you're hitting the right variant. So this is another storyline that we'll be watching, Jill, as my voice starts to go here. I do not have bird flu. I think it's just a cold for my daughter.
I was in the office last week on Tuesday, and I'm thinking, you're sounding like me. Like, did you
give this to me?
Get this from me? I think it's been too long.
Okay.
So I'm going to...
Jill wants to use this as an excuse not to come back to the office.
I know, Moshe, I don't
She's
really
like,
feel comfortable
yeah.
in that small office. I'm just getting over being sick. I don't want to keep giving it back to each other.
No, I think I got this from someone in Olivia's twos class who gave it to Olivia and then gave it to me.
That definitely seems more likely. And I do feel bad because I feel like you're going downhill as we are doing this podcast. Let's get to our next story from the Ohio Capitol Journal. The state legislature in Ohio is considering mandating an anti-poverty theory in public schools called the success sequence. It says that people are less likely to be poor as adults if they do the following: graduate high school, work full-time, and wait until marriage to have children. The Ohio Senate passed the bill last week. It now moves to the Ohio House for consideration. According to the bill, following these sequences of events means that people are overwhelmingly less likely to live in poverty in adulthood. State Senator Al Catrona, a Republican, introduced the bill. He says, quote, "We have an obligation to the next generation. We need to help them break the chains of poverty." Now this bill provides just that, creating the opportunity by taking a three-pronged approach. So the bill requires that the Ohio Department of Ed and Workforce create a model curriculum for the success sequence for grades 6 through 12, and it would also be a graduation requirement. The Heritage Foundation, the conservative think tank that published Project 2025, provides model legislation for the success sequence.
Yeah, there's a question, though, whether the success sequence in sequence is actually effective, whether you need to do it in that exact order. And you did see some pushback from some Ohio Democrats regarding that, saying this is not an effective policy solution to combat poverty here. One Democrat saying, if we're serious about fighting poverty and being a help to Ohio's working poor, we could be providing paycheck protections or working family support. Poverty is not a failure of personal responsibility, said Democratic Senator Ken Smith. So it's something we'll be watching. And you're seeing in a few states right now, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Texas among them as well.
And finally, from the Mo News Substack, characters from K-pop Demon Hunters, Netflix's hit animated musical, have become such a popular Halloween costume choice this year that many stores simply cannot keep up with demand. Spirit Halloween is selling the official licensed costumes for the main characters, and it has already sold out of the costumes both online and in store. And while there are still the generic unbranded versions on Amazon, those are also going fast and they are quite expensive. Part of the problem, according to the Wall Street Journal, is that, quote, the popularity surprised Netflix, which had to scramble to throw together even a minimal selection of consumer products, including Halloween costumes, in just a few months. Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, the three main characters from the movie, are the most searched for Halloween costumes this year, according to Google Trends. And Moshe, my daughter, is going as Rumi, a costume that cost me way too much money.
You're like, Alex, you're going to be wearing that for the next 3 Halloweens.
Well, I was searching for it on Amazon and I was thinking I'd have tons of options. I'm embarrassed to say even how much I paid for it. And I'm thankful because I do everything at the last second. And she happened to have a Halloween party in the middle of October. So I had to get the costume with plenty of time for that, or else I would have been scrambling probably right now and very much out of luck.
Well, thank God for that party.
Thank God for the spooky soiree, as it was called.
Alex has her costume. We're very happy. Jill is, continuing to win points with her kids. It turns out that, Netflix was just, as you mentioned, just totally overwhelmed by the success of the film here. It's his most popular original film ever. They've brought it to theaters a couple times. Over in South Korea, it's inspired a theme park exhibit, Billboard-topping soundtrack. And then we told you recently about their deal with Hasbro and Mattel to bring toys. But again, they're sort of behind the 8 ball here because they're not going to be ready for Christmas, but will be ready for the spring. So K-pop Demon Hunters coming to a trick-or-treat at your place. All of your places. Everyone listening to this. You will see someone dressed as a K-pop demon hunter, I imagine, no matter what neighborhood you're in America. Which brings us to On This Day in History. On this day in 1636, Harvard was founded. It is the oldest higher education institute in the U.S. It was founded by the Massachusetts Bay Colony at the time. It was like, more than 150 years or so before we became the United States. John Harvard was the first major benefactor. On this day in 1858, Roland Hussey Macy, you might know that name, Macy, opened his first New York store on 6th Avenue and 14th Street in Manhattan. I guess he just was like, I'm going to name it after myself. Macy's it is.
Mo News.
Yeah, I follow, we follow a long tradition. John Harvard gives you Harvard. Macy gave you Macy's, and Mo gave you Mo News. Fast forward to 1866 on this day, the Statue of Liberty, a gift from the people of France, is dedicated in New York Harbor by President Grover Cleveland. Fun fact, Grover Cleveland is the other president who has served 2 non-consecutive terms as president, similar to Donald Trump, winning, losing, and then winning again. As Jill noted at the beginning, when she made clear that she knew we were talking about the Statue of Liberty, when I said it was a 305-foot gift, when the Statue of Liberty arrived, she was shiny copper, a reddish brown when she arrived. But then over time, due to a chemical reaction with the air in New York Harbor, it became the blue-green that we have today. There is talk for the 250th birthday of America next year of whether we should sort of give the Statue of Liberty, a shine and restore her to her original color, a reddish brown there, the copper, or is she so iconic now as the greenish blue, you sort of have to leave it?
I think you've got to leave it. I think people will lose their minds if the Statue of Liberty changes color.
Don't tell Trump. That's something he would very much enjoy.
He'll make it gold.
Yeah, he's like, well, you know what we should do? The French didn't give it to us in gold. We're going to put a gold coat on it. Jill, there's still about 9 months or so to go before July 4th, 2026 for our 250th birthday here as a country. And finally, a bit of music history on this day, Stevie Wonder themed. On this day in 1972, Stevie Wonder releases his 15th album, Talking Book, which gives us, among the hits, Superstition and You Are the Sunshine of My Life. And 23 years later, on this day in 1995, Coolio would score number one with Gangsta's Paradise, which, of course, is a sample of the Stevie Wonder song Pastime Paradise.
Look at that. Look at you wrapping it all together.
Sometimes, Jill, it's hard to sort of weave these things, and sometimes history has a way of working out like that.
All right, everyone, before Moshe officially loses his voice, let's wrap this up. Thank you all for listening to the Mo News podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this with your friends. It will help us grow. Follow us, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Review us in the App Store. The reviews really do help.
Thanks, everybody.
This is Leah. Thank you for listening from Mo Pocket with Mom and Dia.